All right, so I think we're good to get started. I guess to briefly recap what we worked on Monday, not to belabor it too much, but we created a brand new facilities request form. Um, I ended up having to rebuild it because we were having the issue with um, the show hide, which I got fixed. Um, so we basically created the start of a facilities form and the start of a facilities workflow. And that was really the majority of the call on Monday. So I guess at Brent's direction, the thing that we want to start to tackle next is the CMDB, at least for IS's purposes, and then kind of depending on how far we get in this, then we have room to kind of open it up and maybe work on some other things. Um, so in short, CMDB is a repository, not so much a ticket module. You have a bunch of different assets or configuration items that you can kind of just store information for, and then based on the information you have stored in here, you're able to apply them as impacted items on like a change ticket or in service requests or anything like that, and then have kind of a ongoing history of tickets against any given asset. So I guess Brent, to start, since we're gonna utilize your group as kind of the focus here to start. If you could kind of go over, I know that we're doing a little bit of inventory, but like kind of some of the items that we will want to kind of get in here, and that'll kind of focus how we set up our CI form.
This is Dee. I have a question.
Yeah.
I see that we're also meeting tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow and Friday. Were you intending on doing purchasing tomorrow? Because I won't be here.
No, purchasing was for today.
Oh, we're doing purchasing today?
Correct.
All right.
Because you weren't,
Okay.
she wasn't available on Monday, so I wanted to make sure we had a session for that.
Yeah. So I guess Dee, do you want to focus on the CMDB
Yeah, that's fine.
part, or do you want to do your service requests?
Well, they tie together, so I thought that the form comes before the workflow. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean there are two different forms that we could work on. We could look at the form for each specific asset, or we could do just straight up for your requests. You'll have a request form and a workflow versus the actual form for each of your different assets.
Well, we need to start with the form for the assets because until the assets are in there, there can't be any work orders.
Okay. So
Now that tab that you're on is for the second drop down. So that's the drop down within a drop down. The first one, those are the fields that we are currently using. I just sort of took what we're currently using, and obviously we could rename these to match the fields that are in ChangeGear. But that's the skeleton of what we're currently using.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be too bad to simply replicate it in ChangeGear. Really, the only things I'll need a little help with is like what we talked about the other day, to use the name field as the asset ID, because that's the one that's going to be a unique field. You know, things like that I don't know about ChangeGear specifically.
Okay. So what we'll do is okay. So what I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do, just kind of based on your asset categories. I see furniture, and then we have some different kind of equipment categories, right? Um,
Right.
so what I'm going to do, and eventually I'm going to let you drive, and I'll kind of guide you through the rest of it.
Uh-huh.
But from the administration tab, kind of all of our drop downs for our different assets and everything will be under this configuration management section. I'm just going to add um, our two new resource types, which is going to be furniture and equipment. Um, or we could probably all just consider this equipment. It'll be up to you. Should we break them out, furniture separate from? Because what I'm kind of thinking is we do equipment, and then there's subsections medical, dental, other. Um,
The reason I did it this way was just simply the way the other database software worked. I couldn't have a drop down within a drop down,
okay,
and I didn't want staff to have to choose equipment, then choose medical, then choose dental. Ideally, I would like them, if they chose a Popka family and hit equipment, it's only going to show them medical. It's not even going to bother showing them optometry equipment because it's not applicable. And
okay,
that's the part I needed to talk to you about how, can it be structured that way, and is it worth it?
right. So this is kind of essentially what happens with this resource type list is at the start it's extremely high level. But I were to go into change gear and I would say create a new network device, and once it loads up, you'll see that even though on here network is only like one subset of your different options, you should only see everything from here down. So it's
Okay,
kind of, you can only choose
but
things
they're
within the network
choosing
path.
that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's not going to be linked to I signed in and the computer knows I'm at a Popka family. So when I choose the site, it narrows it down to only seeing certain lists. I have to do it the way you're seeing here, where they'll have to go into equipment and then medical.
right, right. But I think from an asset perspective, that's kind of a good way of setting it up. Like I guess as part of your, you get new equipment in and you need to put it all into the CMDB. You're like, all right, so this is a network probe, or this is using one of your examples, equipment, medical, ultrasound. Um, and then of course you can search directly on ultrasounds and just get your ultrasounds, but
Yeah, the only things that'll cross is I'll have autoclaves that are medical and dental. One will be, if
okay,
I'm looking for all of my dental autoclaves versus all of my medical autoclaves, the same equipment is used in both places. I think that's really the only one that crosses over. So, like you said, I can always do a further culling of that list by just taking out the medical sites. I'm looking forward to doing reports, and I know if I don't put a key field in here now, I need to run a report, and it's not a key field. It makes running the report that much more difficult. But then I don't want
right,
to have 10,000 key fields either. So
right.
and that's where I'm relying on you for some balance of the best way to do that.
So so whenever you create like a new base resource type, you're actually going to create
Okay.
a new option here under the CMDB new list. So you buy a new exam table, and it would be as simple as just coming in here into CMDB, selecting equipment, and then you kind of from here we're actually able to specify I want to use this specific uh, this specific form for all of my equipment. And CMDB does like a cool, interesting thing where you can like extend out the entity to so that like equipment has certain fields that are special to them, kind of under its own section. I don't necessarily think that's best practice. Like, we have all of these different CI entities. I don't generally, I'd say ignore this, but absolutely, if equipment has, you don't need to know IP address on a table. Um,
Right.
So you can set up an equipment form and choose it, and then every new piece of equipment you choose is going to utilize that form, and then everything within it. And to kind of create a subcategory, it's just a matter of clicking new once you're already have your cursor on a section. So I can say, medical, and now medical is a subcategory of equipment.
Okay, that's easy. Okay, yeah, if it's that easy, then yeah, it makes sense to do it that way.
Yep, and then of course click on medical, click new, and now you're creating subcategories of medical.
Now here's my question: we're creating subcategories. Now, when I build the drop down, I just want to make sure I don't build it on one end and then have to, they have to talk to each other. When I build the drop down, I'll just be selecting these fields to add into the drop down list, correct? I'll just be going here and saying, pull this field from my asset database, and that's what goes here.
Yeah, essentially. So
okay, all right.
So really, I guess from the reporting perspective, I'll say this will kind of be hard to show off since we don't have any assets in the CMDB.
Right.
But I can say in my filter, I'll actually show you from, I actually think that building table reports works better from the desktop app. So yeah, I'll create a CI report. And in my filter, I can say, where.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, like
cool. So you can do that exact same tree structure. You can just pick it here. Okay, perfect.
Exactly. And so you can, once you know like a little bit basic SQL formatting, you can say, equipment, medical, and then wildcard, and then get everything from there.
Yep. Cool. Like I said, I hate to build it out on one end, and then when we go to do the work ticket, go, oh shoot, we should have built it different. So.
Right. So I'm actually going to, you have change gear installed and everything?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and sign in?
I haven't signed into it yet, though, so this will be a good test. This will be the first time I'm signing into it.
For sure.
Let me just find it.
And then once you're ready, we can, I'll have you share your screen, and I'll kind of guide you through it.
You didn't actually want me to be able to type, did you? Good Lord. You know how as soon as someone's watching you, you can't type? Server, hold on, I have a post-it note on that. I can't minimize you. Why can I not minimize you? I'll move you to the other screen. Can't do that either. There you go. Sorry, I'm having trouble getting you off my screen so I can get to my post-it note.
Oh, I'll stop the share.
Oh, there you go. No, you didn't just stop the share. For some reason, it went up on the top of my screen, and you were on top of everything else. All right, server, enterprise, portal.chcfl.org. I tried to sign in yesterday, not realizing I couldn't because I was remote. I was like, oh, shoot, they said something about that. Crap.
We can actually, we can create what's called like a forms authenticated account. That's basically just a username and password that isn't connected to your AD or
server.
And yeah, it'll basically bypass ADFS and kind of just sign in that way.
Okay.
Yes, please.
That's how I'm able to get in your environment. Like I have my own services account. Obviously, we don't exist in your Active Directory, so.
Right, that's pretty cool, though. I like that.
That would still be a no, FYI.
What's that?
Oh, I thought you said yes, please.
No, that was Dave.
Oh, crap. Well, we were all excited about it.
No harm in being excited, just it won't happen.
But if we can access our computer, then we can access that, right?
That is correct.
No, that's what I'm saying. If you're remote and you have to access your deck, well, is it going to be there, Brent, when you're remote?
No, we're not. We don't plan to put that on the remote at this time. I mean, if you mean
How
the
much?
you could load that application on any computer though.
Oh, okay. So I could load it on my computer at home and do it that way.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, as long as I have a way to work when I'm not physically in the office, I don't care how it is. I can even work on my iPad. I just need some way to be able,
well,
if I'm off site and somebody asks me something, then I can get to it.
it's a Windows app, so it won't work on the iPad. But
Well, they have an app, though. The app that we're using in the field goes on my iPhone and my iPad.
yeah, but it's not
So
the
depending on how much I
admin.
can do with the mobile app,
Yeah,
you can
it
do
won't.
a lot in the mobile app. I was surprised.
I
It's
actually
not
had
the
a question.
administration piece though.
Yeah, it's not admin piece. I had a question about the mobile app because I loaded it on my phone yesterday or Monday actually, and every time I logged in, it just would not do anything. It would. I couldn't log in. I couldn't get past that log on screen.
I think you need to talk to get permissions from the IT department, Brent.
Yeah, jokes.
What I would say is, I think you've worked with, or I'm sure you've worked with Jeremy Lyons in support. He's kind of our cloud administrator, but he's also like one of our main network troubleshooters. And he should definitely be able to get you through and help you troubleshoot anything with getting logged in.
Has anyone else here tried to use the mobile app?
Not yet, I have not.
Not I.
Just want to make sure it's not a.
I can try. I'll download it and try it and let you know if I have the same issue.
Okay.
And that way, at least you'll know if it's a you because you're using an Android issue. Because I have an iPhone, so that'll give us more information that way too.
Yeah.
If it works on one platform and not the other. Hey Justin, how do I share my screen? I'm not used to Ring Central.
Yeah, on the Ring Central, at the very bottom, there should be a green button that says share. Like bottom middle.
Well, that would be really easy. Now I have to find where you went because you took your screen away. So where the heck are you? Ring Central. I'm still at a thing that says when prompted run, so that's not it. How can I not have you? I don't have you here.
All right, let me.
My Ring Central says join a meeting, which I'm already in, obviously.
All right, I'm going to screen cap and maybe email you my screen. See if that you should see something that looks like this. And then you can either there's either the big share button or there's the one in the.
I don't have that
scroll.
anywhere here. It's the problem. I'm familiar with that screen. I just don't know where it went. I'm closing everything else, minimizing, not closing, everything else to see behind it. I have 4 screens too, so when we do this, we're going to have to figure out which screen to share in the whole thing. No, that button is change gear. That button is Ring Central, but it says join a meeting, so that's not it. Do you want to leave this meeting? Okay, that's weird. My Ring Central thing says, do you want to join this meeting? If I go to close that box, it says, do you want to leave this meeting? No, I don't want to leave the meeting. I just want to see the meeting.
You don't have a share piece right in the middle of the screen?
You might have the meeting, like, you might have like a minimized window, like in a corner somewhere. I've seen it when you try to minimize it. It makes it like
that.
a small, like 1-inch square.
No. Hold on, looking through every single thing. Sticky notes. No.
All right, I reshared my screen just to.
There you are. I see you. Okay, there we go.
So I'm going to.
Hold on. I'm going to drag you over here. You are viewing Justin. Okay, now we're back to I see your screen. Yay.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing.
Invite.
You should still see that.
There we
screen.
go. Share. Oh yes, pick a screen, any screen. That one.
I figured out the issue with the app. You have to put an HTTPS ahead of the server name, which you don't have to do with the admin portal.
Okay.
Good to know. Okay. So can you see me now?
Yep, I can see you.
Yes, we can see you.
Yay.
All right.
How can you not see the purple?
Yeah, I had to put my sunglasses
Oh
on.
please, it's like a tiny little thing across the top. Leave me alone.
And the bottom.
So at any point you can kind of click that green refresh, and that'll kind of pull in the changes that I made into yours.
I can't do it with that open, can I?
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah.
I guess not any time, but
Almost any time.
Yeah, almost any time. And then now you can see that I put in equipment, medical.
Yeah, so we don't have to build out this whole thing. I'll just put it in dental, so we have one more thing.
Yeah, maybe put in a subtype.
We don't have a form.
So let's do dental, and then maybe we can put in a subtype of one of the two.
Hello, type. I did that because that's what they call it, all those different things. So that way, if they search, it'll find it.
Right. So what we can do now is we're going to go down to the very bottom of that left menu, Advanced. And we're going to open up the Entity Editor. And so Service Request Management will be where we build out our work order form.
Okay.
And then for the actual specific assets, it'll be under Configuration Management. Yeah, and then CIs.
What's a CI?
A configuration item.
Thank you.
Which is yep.
I'm writing that down. I hate not knowing what acronyms are. Okay. Oh, I'm spinning. Why am I spinning? Give me my cursor back.
David can tell you.
Stop spinning.
Loading in
Look
quite
up
a.
list?
So lookup list
Yeah.
we'll create later.
You will have to take its time, Dee. There's a lot of information that needs to load.
Yeah. So if you were to open up the CIs, you'll kind of see what's going on there.
That was David's very polite way of telling me I have to be patient. It's not my best skill.
So so we have a lot of these different entities under here. We have the ability to add more. I'd say in most cases, in fact, I actually don't know a really good use case for using the extra entities. I would say always open up base CI and kind of work in that space. So basically, the base CI is your main list of your forms and drop-down or fields and drop-downs, and then you can have kind of specialized extra bits in your different entities. Like if you were to open up like network device, you would see that it has like 3 fields, or something like. Yeah, so let's go ahead and open base CI.
I did.
Okay.
I tried that. Oh, there now this time it worked. Okay.
And then let's
Forms?
open up forms. Yep. And then we're going to just edit the default staff form. The middle one.
Sorry.
Yep. And then customize.
Can I maximize this?
I wouldn't, because the way that ChangeGear stores its form data, it's actually using actual pixel values instead of kind of proportional. So
okay.
yeah.
All
So
right,
if you maximize the form and save it, it's going to take those pixel lengths. Which,
that's a very good thing to know. I want to note that. Don't maximize. Maximize or faster. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the form designer. It's drag and drop. Any fields you don't want, you can just kind of drag them into that toolbox there. Any fields that you create or fields that are already kind of pre-created but not on the form are going to appear in that toolbox. And you can kind of just drag them around. Inside the toolbox, there's the two sections, fields and controls. So fields are exactly that, lists of all of your fields and all of your drop-downs. Right now, we don't have any custom created CMDB forms or fields. Anything new you create will show up in this list with the prefix UDF underscore for user-defined field.
Right. That part I knew. And I don't see anybody else's user-defined fields, just mine. Okay. That was one question.
We've not touched CMDB yet. You're the first one in.
I knew they had created used the same process on other forms, and so I wondered if that information would be here. And that was what I was looking for, was the name fields that we saw in the other forms.
Okay, so the name field should be on the form already. Like if you were to open up that general tab on the form itself, you can see name is,
that's where I want to be.
Name is the first one right there. Yeah.
Perfect. And that's always going to be called name. I can't change that to asset ID. That tag for the field, that's what it is.
So you can change the caption on any of these fields. Like if you click on it, and then like the first property is caption. You can change it there. You can right click and change the caption from the right click.
From up here or down there? From here?
Right click, change caption.
Perfect.
Another quick shortcut way that I like to do it is you can click on it and then hit the F2 key on your keyboard, and that'll
F2.
Yeah.
Equals. Okay. All right.
And
so these are pretty self-explanatory. I mean, I can sit here and build out my form and not take up time, with the whole group, because I can just drag and drop my fields where I need them. I just wanted to do one of the drop downs with a sub drop down because I saw you do it, but I want to do one so that I have one to work off of.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, just before you guys get going, I wanted to interject. Should we be looking at this as having multiple forms? Because IT assets may not reflect exactly what Dee's looking at. Or is that something maybe we should build a combined form for instead?
I would say that the form
I think we have to have separate forms.
Yeah, I think the form is going to be more based off the type of asset. So kind of if you're all working in different worlds, like from the asset type perspective, then it would make sense to have different forms. But I think if there's any kind of asset that multiple groups are going to be touching and dealing with, at least at the asset level, you kind of combine the form. Everyone will still get their information, but
facilities will be using the assets, but they're created when they're purchased. So facilities use of it will be simply typing in the asset number and attaching it to a facilities work order to say, hey, we're turfing this to you, or hey, we worked on this. So they wouldn't need a form in their area. They would just, because we're referring to the same asset.
But
whereas
can that be
has their own set of assets that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Dee.
because on your form, on your ticket, you're going to say I forget how you worded it, the impacted item and asset tag number, which is automatically then going to pull my asset.
Okay, but how are we going to determine that? You know what I mean? How are we going to
What?
know unless we take a picture of the asset or scan the asset?
If you're at the site and you're working on a spot monitor because they asked you to come fix the wheel on the stand or something like that, and you want to update it, it's going to say impacted item, and you put in the asset tag number. And now on my end, my asset tag gets updated that you did something to it.
Okay,
So
but
you
that's
don't have
gotta
to have a whole list of the assets to use. You're using my same list of assets. We don't
But
have
that's
to
gotta
have
be
the same
made.
information twice.
But that
Right.
information has to be made, correct?
Right. On your form, you're going to have that link. Justin, stop me if I have this wrong.
No,
No,
I understand.
Yeah.
But that link then ties into your assets. So how do we make that link?
When you're doing your form, it's a type of field. So you're going in, you put your name, your this, your that, your other thing on your form, and then one of your fields will be named whatever you want, but what it is basically insert D's asset tag number here kind of thing. You can name it whatever you want. It should be asset tag number. And then you put the asset tag number, and the way you code the field is this field looks up over here.
Okay, but where did this field go into as far as description-wise? You know what I mean? What am I putting that under?
You can put it anywhere you want on your form.
So
I guess,
it'd be just a standard thing. Hang on.
Right.
I guess it might
It'd
make
just be a
sense
standard through the whole form. If you don't use it, you don't use it.
Right.
It's not going to be a required. It's
Right.
not going to be a required list. Something that they have to do.
Right. Right.
So
because if you're going to work on an alarm system, it's not going to ask you for the asset tag because it's irrelevant.
Right.
And if you and truthfully, if you work on an asset and you don't put the asset tag number in, what's just going to happen is I just don't know you did it.
Right. Okay, that's fine. That's a field that I'm going to have to create, right?
Uh-huh. I'll help you.
Okay. Well, I know you will. Okay. So that's fine. I mean, that works out good. So that if we trashed an item, we can just say this item, we just threw this item away and attach the asset tag to it, right?
You don't even have to, you just have to type the number in. And then Justin will talk about workflow, that when you do that, we will get a notification somehow that says, hey, so-and-so just made an adjustment to this asset. And then that way we can go in on our end and do anything we need to do. I.e., if I want the center to return it to me, I can reach out to them and say, hey, don't put that in the dumpster. I want it for parts, all kinds of things like that.
but
at that point, you'll be done.
Yeah, I would almost caution doing it the reverse way. Instead of kind of having the changes to the actual asset be the last thing that you do. Kind of everything that happens as far as, you have a work order come in and at some part of that is we're going to throw out this asset. There should be some ticket, whether it's a service request or it's a change ticket or something saying, hey, I am throwing out this asset that that's linked to the ticket, and then there's some sort of paper trail. Like CMDB doesn't have a true workflow like the rest of the like the service request module or anything we've looked at so far. It's just your repository of assets.
Right. That's why I figured on the workflow, the action item would be notifying Kat, hey, Dave just wants to throw this out. Kat would actually have to go into CMDB and discontinue the item and fill out the form that, and gather any information we need. From facilities point, it would just be a notification that this needs to be done, and we would handle updating the database.
Right. Yeah, we could.
Yeah,
we could absolutely.
I didn't want him to update the database. I just needed it to link to, when he types something in that asset field, we'll build a link that says, Kat gets an email that says, hey, somebody just messed with asset number, whatever, go look.
absolutely. Um, but I guess the point I was trying to make is that even in the case of like if there's overlap on an asset between what you need D and what Brent needs, for example, you're still dealing with the same asset, right? You're just kind of working in different sets of information. So it would actually make like, so probably what I would do is share a form, and then if there's any specific info, like for purchasing, that all lives under the procurement tab, like as an example, kind of using what's out of the box. And then any additional information would be, general or usage, or you can create new tabs for all of your additional information. You're just kind of working in your specific spots of the asset.
Right. Dave would be feeding into here, into service history.
Yep. So any tickets you create are going to feed into the service history.
And so he would just have one where the last one says, asset, this asset, he's linked it to here, needs to be discarded. And then I would say that his stuff is done. He doesn't have to do any more.
Right.
From there, Kat would take it to say, like I said, either please return this to us, we can use it for parts, or yeah, I know Dave thinks it needs to be discarded, but let me try something else.
Yeah, but a lot of that
that's
is
just a handoff. That's just a handoff of facilities saying we've done what we can do.
Well, and let's say an office chair, I might throw it away, but you might not. But it doesn't make any sense to wait for an email to say don't throw it away. We can't like keep it on the guy's truck, or keep it in storage and then remember to go. You know what I mean? It would have to be
right. And then, this tool doesn't mean there's not conversations offline like we do now. You text me and you go, "Here's the picture. I'm going to trash it." I go, "Okay, yeah, go ahead."
Yeah, that's what I do now.
This is what happens after that conversation. It doesn't replace the conversation.
Okay.
It just documents what we're already doing, you and I, with texts and everything else and emails. Now, instead of having all that to go back through to figure out what we did, we'll be putting it in this common repository so we can see what we did.
No, okay, that's fine. I got you now.
Yep, exactly.
Because I was going to say, man, when we're on the job and it's like, I'm throwing the chair away, you know what I mean? It's like, I can't wait for emails to keep on going back and forth.
Exactly. And I wouldn't argue with you on a chair. I'd just be like, "Oh, he threw a chair away." Okay, But there are going to be times where facility says, "Hey, they called us to look at this autoclave, and this is an actual functional issue, not a physical issue. This isn't the plug. It's not the breaker isn't tripped. The damn thing just doesn't turn on." At that point, he would turf it to us. We would see it and say, "It won't turn on, and they already checked the breaker." Okay, now we're going to pick it up and do our own workflow and put in a repair ticket and that whole thing. Facilities needs to be able to hand it off clean and walk away and have us pick it up from there. Did that make sense, Justin, the way I said it?
Yep, that did.
Okay.
All right, I want to check something really quickly. Make sure that we're actually doing it the right way. Because now I'm looking at your second drop down, and it's all your second drop down tab, and it's all kind of clicking for me.
Yeah, I thought maybe that would help. I know you probably got that last night and we're like, "What?"
I'm just going to.
Now, I envisioned my drop down and second drop down tabs. I envisioned those being used more by the user, but of course they could also be used by facilities. Those are really, in my mind, for when the site is contacting us directly for a service. They don't often contact facilities for a service. What will happen is they've contacted them for something, as I said, like a tripped breaker. Facilities goes out and says the breaker's fine, and then they go, "Oh, fudge, our autoclave doesn't work." And then they start a second process by contacting us and saying, "Hey, our autoclave doesn't work." So what I was hoping is this would just make that handoff easier, because sometimes days go by in between facilities telling them it's not a breaker and then letting us know it's broken.
Right.
This way it would be, Dave, as soon as Dave's staff says it's not the breaker and it still doesn't turn on, we wouldn't have to have staff then go put in a whole separate request. It would just sort of fall over to us. Now, if staff knows it's an equipment issue, they're not going to call facilities first. They're just going to put in a ticket. And that's how I built those drop downs for the staff that was saying, I have a known equipment issue, here's what it is.
Definitely. All right, I'm just kind of, while we wait, just so I can describe what I'm doing, I'm taking, I'm kind of drafting what I think the solution is in one of my test systems, just so I can say, you know, what the limitations will be, you know, measure twice, cut once type thing. And then I'll probably need to step away for half a second and kind of run this by our solution architect, just to have a pass of, you know, sure, we can do it, but should we do it this way?
Well, and if this is something that needs more discussion in the background and then we come back to it before we proceed with, you know, developing the form, I'm good with that. I mean, you know, now that you like I said, you had the structure, but until you kind of hear how we're going to interrelate and use the structure, I know there's little bells going off in your head going, ooh, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this. And so that doesn't necessarily have to happen real time right now. I'm okay with that being something you work on offline and we come back to. Okay. I mean, so nothing like having to do it under the gun on the spot, right?
So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just to, there should be an option where you can view where you can have multiple screens viewed at once, and you should be able to choose mine.
Yeah, if you click view options at the top, the little drop down, there's a little, the very bottom of that list is Justin's screen. Under the shared screen.
As long as you're not a sharer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, I'm not seeing that.
So it seems like it'll work, at least as far as, and I just made something that doesn't necessarily make sense, but it does prove that I can link to the default resource type list and specify, you know, this one belongs to development guideline, for example. And so,
you know, I can't see your screen, right?
Go ahead and stop sharing really quick, just so we can all be on the same
that'll
page.
Work. Here you are.
Yep. So test 2, and basically I created a little sub drop down that links it back to your resource types. So test 2 will be other, and then on my CI form, first things first. Create that new association. last bit of customization will be setting up this filter to say I want to filter when my request type changes, I want to change this field by the hardware type, or filter this one by the hardware type. And so now I need to remember what exactly I had set up there. So test 1 will be document development guideline. So essentially what will happen is you can see test 1, test 2, but as soon as I choose development guideline, it should filter down to just be test 1. So I'll have to go back and do some additional troubleshooting on this, kind of the best way. What we might end up having to do is kind of what we're doing in work order or in a service request is we're generating kind of different base lists. We're creating 2 lists that are kind of their own for each of your purposes. So you would have an equipment type list, and you would choose, medical, et cetera, and then your second types. So that'll be something I'll need to follow up on for you, but. We can at least create our second dropdown and start populating
share my
some
screen
of those
again?
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen, and that way we at least have the object built. And then
and then we just play with how the object relates.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. So we need to be back there.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and we're going to save our form. And let's call it equipment or purchasing, or equipment works.
Well, are we? Do I on the names of the forms? Am I supposed to preface it with my department?
I'll leave that as an executive decision.
Well, is this one of the things where we're going to go look at forms and we're going to have multiple departments having the same name of but different stuff? So we want to differentiate and say this is my form versus IT.
I don't think so in the case, because we can choose on the resource type what form we use.
All right, and we're going to do all equipment can be the same because it's the same information whether it's dental, medical, or optometry. I need the same information.
Right.
I'm just going to have all right.
Exactly, and then we'll choose staff as the type.
Okay. Active.
And then go ahead. We can leave it inactive.
Okay.
Click OK. And then we're going to back out of the form designer.
Do I have to save it, or did it?
Yeah, it did it. And then we're going to go into lookup lists down at the bottom. And we're going to click Add Entity. Up near the top. Yeah,
got it.
Yep, right there. And then
this is the area where we want to name things by department.
Yeah.
What am I adding here?
So MM, and so this is kind of what we're naming that list, both at the database level and kind of in your configuration management lookup lists section.
Okay, so I want to match it. So the first one is equipment, and the drop down will then be medical, optometry, furniture, medical, optometry, dental.
Yeah. So this one.
I don't think we have other.
Yeah, this one that we're creating is actually the second one. So I don't know if
The second one. Okay, the one that
yeah.
after I've chosen that it's dental, now what? So, okay, so this one needs to be, well, I can actually start it with equipment, dental. And it'll be,
yeah. So we'll actually kind of all keep this. This is actually more kind of in general. So you have in your spreadsheet, you have everything in that second column there, and that's kind of how we're going to lay it out. So what if you had to describe that second column? That would be like subtypes, or
well, the drop down for equipment medical would be just that. You know, you'd go to equipment, then to medical, and then you'd have those choices: exam table, or and if we're doing dental, then you'd go to equipment dental, and you'd have curing light, amalgamator, autoclave, ultrasonic, Cavitron, all those choices.
Okay, I see. Yeah, so really these are.
And then the second drop down is once you've chosen, you've said, I have a problem with my autoclave. The second drop down, that next tab, is, okay, now that I chose autoclave, it's going to ask me, now that you've told me you have a problem with your autoclave, is your problem that it's giving you an error code, it's a printer issue, a heat issue, pressure issue, cord issue, tell me what it is.
Okay.
That was more for the work ticket flow of the user saying, paring down to what exactly is wrong, because I can't tell you how many we get. Our autoclave's broken. Okay, how is it broken? Does it not turn on? Does it turn on and then blow up?
I see now. Okay, so this is actually.
Those drop downs were not for setting up assets, but for going through a work ticket process.
This is for the work order.
Right.
So we could actually.
Like I said, I didn't know where those drop downs had to be built out. I didn't know if those drop downs had to be built out in the beginning of the asset setup so they were available when we did the workflow, or if they're set up as we're doing the workflow.
Right. So I would actually go ahead and click cancel. We're going to build out this list, but we're going to build it out under service request management and lookup lists. Add entity. And then I would call this issue type. And
dental, because I don't want them having issue. The issue type is going to be directly related to each piece of equipment.
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a master list of issue types. Right.
Got it.
Then from there we're probably going to have a second list that is your equipment type. Maybe that gets
okay, and then you link. Okay, I see. Then you link each issue type that's applicable to that equipment. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And so, in the name, it has to be database format, so no spaces or special characters.
No dashes, huh?
No dashes, no spaces.
Everybody run together.
Yep.
Okay.
I think it'll give you an issue.
Oh, wait, space. Sorry.
Right there. Yep, you should be good. Okay. And then I would actually.
Can you add the MM in front of that though?
I put MM in front of it.
That was just the database table thing, not the caption.
Oh, I thought on the caption we didn't need it.
On the form we wouldn't need it, but in here you need to have it currently in both places.
Okay. Well, now how do I get back to where I was? Look up list, equipment issue, that's this one. So right click edit.
Go ahead. I would actually
or not.
close out of the entity editor without saving and then reopening it.
Okay.
Yeah. At this point, you've
Can I
not
just go
saved
anywhere?
it, so you can just click the X. It'll say, do you want to save your changes? Say no.
No. Okay. I'm gonna try again. Sorry, Brent. I thought that was the place where I didn't have to do that. Okay, so we're there, right?
There, and then lookup list.
There, and then we're gonna make a new one. Got it.
Yep.
So I need to do this both places. So I'm gonna do MM equipment issue, right?
I would actually probably
Equip
put
issue.
two of them, equipment type and then equipment issue. And that's where
Which
you
one you want to
choose,
do first? Type. Okay.
Yeah,
And
that's
this
fine.
is. But now I can use my special characters.
Yeah, but can we do uppercase, lowercase? 'Cause
You're killing me. I
all
do everything in
uppercase.
uppercase because it's easier to read.
all uppercase is painful to stare at.
It's easier to read. Okay,
You're missing an eye.
Yep.
like that.
Looks like you're missing an I and equip.
Yeah, you think so? Yeah. There we
Go
go.
ahead and click OK.
Bad eyes.
Yep, that looks good.
I clicked it.
All right.
I think I clicked it.
It's thinking.
Yeah, it's thinking.
Once it gives you control back,
Ta-da.
go ahead and click on lookup lists again before you add your next entity. And so this will be, and then add entity again.
Oh, and another one. Okay.
Yep, and this will be issue type. Yep, go ahead and click OK. Up, you have the dash.
Oh, jeez. Forced habit. I put dashes between everything. I hear Kat over there mumbling something, which means I don't have Teams up. Then she was trying to probably say, "Hey, dummy, you have a dash in there." I better put Teams back up. I can't. It's on this screen.
Okay. At this point, we'll go ahead and do a file save.
Hold on. Hopefully coughing fit done. Oh. While this is taking several minutes, I'm going to put you on mute for 1 second and grab water in case that coughing fit comes back.
Not a problem. I'm actually going to run to the bathroom quick. So probably good to take a 5 and then come back. All right, I'll be right back. It's 11 after. I guess we'll, is everyone back or are we still waiting on D?
Dee will be right back in a second. She has to dial back in.
Yep, not a problem. Go ahead.
Okay, you're gonna try to stop doing. Okay.
Yeah. So we have our lookup lists. So now we need to create. Really, it's. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this first. So if we now that we have them, we can go under service request. Yep, that section right there.
Thinking.
Yep.
See, it doesn't give me that little spinny thing right away, so I'm like, did I not click it? So I just have to give it a second, let it register.
Yeah. Yeah. So once
I'll get
we
used
do
to it.
that,
I promise.
once we do that, we're going to kind of generate the actual drop-down objects that we're going to put on our form.
Okay.
And so that's under model.
Oh, all right.
And then click on associations.
Association. Okay.
Yep. And then add association up at the top. So we'll create, we'll call this one equipment type, or equipment type. Under association, where it says association name 1.
Got it.
We're going to delete that out. And, equipment type.
But is it in database format or?
Yeah, database
English.
format.
Okay.
You got it.
I told you I can't type when people are watching.
And then, so now we're going to go to the next section up, field data type. And there should be a drop down when you click on it. And yeah, it's going to be that one. Yep. And so now at this point you can click add association and add the next one, which would be your issue type.
Oh.
Yep. Right there.
Okay.
So we can continue to create new ones all day, but since we're just going to do these two, now we'll do a file save. And after this, we
Okay, so I can sit there and make, if I have a list of all the ones I need, and better to do all of them at once and then do a file save. Okay, got it.
Yep.
I'm used to do it save because you don't want to lose things, but I see what you're saying about it's going to take a minute, so you might as well do them all and then save. And if the computer crashes halfway through,
Exactly. The one place where I would kind of make sure you want to do a save in between is between your lookup lists and your associations. And then associations and forms I would do, or fields I would do 2 different saves on. So
and I would, and natural breaks between functions,
Right. Because I've definitely seen errors happen where you create a brand new lookup list and you try to create a brand new association to that brand new lookup list and commit them at the same time, and ChangeGear doesn't know what you're talking about.
Right, if it wanted to save the lookup list before it saved the association, or the association before it saved the lookup list, it would be going associate to what? It's not here.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Yay.
Go ahead and click OK. And so now we can create our form. So we can scroll up in that list to our forms.
Yeah, I'm just there. It's easier for me. Okay.
And
new one. No.
Yeah, we'll create a new one. So we can choose any of the default ones that we already have. I think we built the facilities request off of move requests. General request is usually a pretty good place to start.
Okay, you want general or move?
Let's do general staff.
Okay.
Yep. We're going to create both a staff and end user for your purchase or your work order form. And then
I have to do edit form.
Yep, you can click edit form there. So I'd say first things first, let's go ahead and save the form under the new name.
File save. Oh, can I do it over here, or do I have to do a file save?
You'll do you can click right there.
And again, under MM, right?
Not necessarily in this case. I think we just did like IS request and then facilities request.
So this will be equipment repair request. Yes, or does it have to be all no spaces? Okay.
No, you can have spaces.
Okay.
And then we'll make the type staff. And we'll leave the form inactive.
Now, this was one of my questions I had on Requester, Brent.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, on Requester right now we have a list of all available staff. Is that something we're still going to have here where you can do the drop down, you know, like if I start typing my name, it finds me?
Yeah, well, all the staff will be imported. We were actually looking at doing that after we get done today.
Okay, I just wanted, so I don't have to deal with this field that's already being worked on, and I'm cool. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
our thought
Will
is
it automatically then fill in their, it'll do their email as well?
Yeah, all that stuff will be pulled in the AD. Our thought is to have those fields autofill though. But
yeah,
if you have somebody who, if you want the system to be able to fill in based on for somebody else instead, like say an assistant's putting in for the director, that may be something we may have to look at. You know, maybe we have.
Well, yes, because our logins at the site are not going to be by individual because we don't want that many people you know, really we only want the clinical leader at the site to be filling these out, and I don't really want to do it by name because then every time they change, someone quits and we get a new person, you got to change it. So I really like using the position. So yeah, they'd have to come in here and then, because they're going to log in as clinical coordinator or POPCA, so they'd have to find themselves on the list. I don't mind them having to do that.
Well, I'm sorry. What do you mean they'll log in as? When this is all AD integrated, so when they go into the system, it's just going to automatically know who they are.
Yeah. And when they create the request,
automatically. Okay. Yeah. They don't have to log into Change Gear or anything. It'll be kind of like they're going to CHCNet kind of thing.
Exactly.
Oh, awesome! That's even better. Okay. And created, I would say just be the default, today.
Yeah, it's going to populate as soon as you hit submit. That field's going to populate with the exact date time of the request. So that one's auto-filled.
Okay.
So then I guess the next step is go ahead and click on design mode to get us back into the drag and drop menu, and then I would scroll all the way down on the form.
On the form or the thing?
On the form, not the toolbox.
Guys away.
Yeah. So you see that field right there? Yep. So under default value where it says general request, go ahead and change that to equipment repair request, just like how you named the form.
So I'm in the right place.
Yep, you're in the right place. So in the toolbox in the properties area, there's that default value property, like just to your right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Not control type. Yes, control type.
Default value.
There we go.
Yep, right there. And then we're just gonna.
And again, database language.
No, this is going to exactly match what you named the form when you saved it. So equipment repair requests, all separate words.
Got it.
Yep.
A little. Okay.
Okay. Now at this point, we can, under our fields list, we can scroll down into the U into the U's, and we should see our equip type and issue type. Now we can drag those onto the form wherever you'd like.
Okay. Let me just move these over so they're not overlapping. There we go. All right. Well, the first thing I need to ask them to is sites. So I need to do this again with sites, but that's okay. Well, it'll do that, right? It'll do department and site. Got that.
Yeah.
So where am I wanting to drag this? Into the top part? Does it? I see that they're broken down by sections. Does that matter, or is that all free form?
It's all relatively free form. There is kind of an art to it, just whatever makes sense, but you can put it more or less anywhere.
Okay. And obviously we can make that smaller.
Yeah, the way you make it smaller is you can right click and choose add empty space item, like it's the very last one, and then drag that empty space up right there, just like that.
Perfect.
And now you have something you can drag around.
That you can drag around?
Now you can drag around the width of the equip type.
Oh, I couldn't just do it before? The little arrow came up, but it wouldn't have let me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's going to be a pain. I have a new mouse I'm trying to navigate with, so excuse me if I can't steer well. I know we need the issue type. Can I put that there? And get rid of that. Those are going to be short too. Okay, so I can play with spacing. That's not a big deal. Okay. So now we have to build these.
Yep. So now you can go ahead and save it. I think it's generally good practice to have space items between each of your fields. We can leave it like this for now, just so you can.
Yeah, I know I have to insert space and make them the different sizes and everything, but that's cosmetic. I can fuss with that.
That's all. Yeah. So at this point, we can go ahead and close this request and create the end user version. So I'd actually click on General Request End User. Yep. Edit it.
Or am I going over here? I know I'm going somewhere over here.
Yeah, so we can add our fields on. Really, there are 3 things you need to do.
I want to save as first, right?
I mean, you can do it in any order, whether you do it now or you do it at the end.
Yeah, but if you forget and you hit save, then you've overwritten the general thing, and that's not good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, typing D.
That was a repair request. You'll want the end user to exactly match kind of what you made the staff one. It was like equipment repair request.
Okay, I'm going to have to write notes as I do this then. Because as you can see, I don't remember what I did 5 minutes ago, and I got to make my screen bigger too so I can see it. Okay.
Don't forget it's recorded.
Thanks, you're a big help.
All right, yep, design mode. And then we're going to go all the way down to the bottom of the form and rename that field with our new form name. And then we can drag on our 2 new fields.
Ah, fudge. Okay, come here. I didn't mean to put you there. Go over there. There we go. I know there's an add blank spacing, but I think I can just put this one on here and then I can do it after. I'll play with blank space. Yeah, again. Does it matter if it's in the same place on the form? for both forms?
Doesn't matter. 'Cause
I mean,
generally your
obviously I have to play with it and make it all pretty and all. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, generally your end user form will be simpler than your than what your technicians see.
Staff form.
Yeah, the staff
Yeah.
form. So they don't necessarily need to be have the same layout or have the same fields. But so this is fine. At this point, you can save it. We're going to go ahead and close completely out of the form designer and the entity editor. And we're going to go to global settings. And you're going to scroll about 3/4 of the way down. You're going to look for the advanced section. There will be a big header that goes across the.
Hello. There we go. Oh,
Yep,
advanced
right
settings.
there.
Got it.
And then up at the start it says Restart Change Gear. You're going to click on the second one to do the web. And so anytime you create new fields, you'll want to reset the web.
Okay.
And at this point, now we can log into Change Gear, and you should see your new form, like the web.
Uh-huh. This I've not done, and I know you did it with us online, and I'd have to review that. So help.
Scroll down.
Yeah, for now, you can just double click where it says URL of Change Gear web app. See where it has the HTTPS enterprise portal? One above it. That one.
Oh,
yeah, just
that's
double
easy.
click there, and it'll open it up in a browser.
That was easy.
And now we can, so in the 3-bar menu.
Can I maximize this or no?
Yeah, go for it. Let's choose service request. And click new, and you should see your.
Ah, look at that.
Yep, right there.
Oh, sorry. I'm running the screen. I'll bring it. Ew. Okay.
Yep. And so there's your form.
This is where I want to know, how do I get the things that.
Yeah, how to get those values.
Right.
Yeah. So back in the Change Gear app. Let's kind of leave the web open in the background for now. You go ahead and click the green refresh. And then, yeah, that's fine.
Yes.
Yep. We didn't actually change anything. So now, service request management section and lookup lists. And then in that list, you should be able to find the two that you just created, the MM. Yeah, they'll be at the bottom until you reopen the app,
Okay.
and they'll be in.
I was gonna say they were alphabetical, except they weren't.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So we need equipment type first. Makes more sense.
Yep, and then you just click new. Over on the far right.
And again, is this going to be free form or all squished together?
Yeah, this is free form. Everything here is
Okay,
free
so
form.
this.
Yeah.
So this really is equipment type.
Yeah. So
description.
at this point,
okay.
you could do like equipment office, equipment medical, equipment.
Okay, so this one's where we're going to separate it. This is equipment medical.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And then description will act as your tooltips. So whenever someone hovers over that selection, you can have some sort of short definition. You might have someone new. It's like, what exactly do you mean
How
by?
can you?
So you can double click on it to reopen it. and then you can just add in a description there.
Okay, my suggestion is going to be medical equipment because it's kind of self-explanatory.
Yep. Like a good example of where you would need those is like, what's the difference between critical and significant impacts? You know.
Right, right.
Yeah,
but this is just going to be a drop-down list of medical equipment, so it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this list so that it's a list inside a list, kind of like how we had it before. So you'd be able to click on medical, put it right now by default. Whenever you create a new lookup, it's always a straight list. So equipment medical is a actually. I would actually probably label it like office-desk or medical-exam table, medical-opt-wall unit, or medical-VCM. And then
I'm making one of these for each piece of equipment.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, that's different. Okay, so instead I need my other screen up because I need to see what I have, so I do them in order. I'm here, you go over there.
And if you want to do it a certain way, definitely let me know if you don't think that this is the ideal method.
And then this guy can say,
You said there were a few that like overlap, right? Between those different sections.
yeah, if so, I would do autoclave dental, autoclave medical on my yeah.
Okay.
The exam tables only go in one place, so we're good there.
Yep. Okay. Exactly. Okay.
So now we'll just do two because otherwise it's going to take forever to do all of them. So we'll just do a couple of them. This is a good one to do though. I like this one. I'm trying to get everybody to call them VSM, so that's what I'm going to put it in as. But here's where I can tell them it's a VSM, also called a spot monitor, which is interesting because ours don't actually do spot monitoring, but people get used to that name. Also called monitor or machine. And if I ever hear somebody call it something else, I'll put more in there.
So question for Justin here. I see we're entering this as a list, but are we going to have the same? Because we were kind of doing the same thing over underneath the CMDB piece.
So what we'll end up doing is in that form where we're basically utilizing this list right here to kind of filter down our selectable assets, right? Someone's creating a work order. We're saying, I'm having an issue with this VSM. So you're saying it's VSM, it is the specific issue, and then you say, okay, which VSM is it? And now you'll select from your list of assets the exact asset tag, or if you don't necessarily need one, which I don't see why you wouldn't.
Yeah, this list is being used when I ask for asset tags and they say I don't have it. If they have the asset tag, they're going to type in the asset tag number and it's going to go, okay, it's a VSM, it's over here, but and it already knows it.
Right.
But if they say other, or I don't know, or I can't read the asset tag, or it doesn't have one, then they would choose other, and then it would say, okay, give me your equipment type. And now they're going to have to choose it because that happens. The asset tag got worn, they can't read it. They type it in and it says no such asset exists because they typed it wrong. Yeah.
Yep.
So this one's good?
Yeah, that one's good.
So now we have two. And can we do one for issue type too? So when we go back to the
Yeah.
form, we can see that flow?
Yeah. So right
Okay.
now, so the way we have it set up now,
I
there
see what
is
Brent's
no,
asking.
yeah, there is no difference between, or there's no filtering between your equipment and your issue types. That'll be something that we'll add in, but right now these are two kind of independent lists from one another.
Right, and I figured we would do it by association,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
figured. All right, so now on here, when I do the name, these are going to be my issue type details for the exam table. So in my name, do I have to say that again? Or, I mean, because we're going to merge these lists and move things around. Because, for instance, this says electrical. Well, in another piece of equipment, an issue type may be electrical. Does it care?
So I've seen it. I don't know if it's been patched out or if it was anything like that. I've seen it where they each need to be unique.
Okay.
So I would probably do, you know, like ET exam table, electrical, especially if you have things that are going to appear over and over and over again. Like I see error prompt to give code is one that I'm seeing
right.
a lot
I'm gonna
in that second list.
Error prompt to give code is gonna. Okay, so I'm gonna want, when I'm making these lists, I'm going to want a separate entry for each of those. I can't just have one default prompt to give code. I'm gonna have to have one related to each one. Okay, so I can't just pull that same response and link it to a bunch of different equipment types. Because that would be easier.
Yeah, it would. You could probably, what you could do is kind of in your report, you can do like a like instead of a equals, you know, wildcard prompt to give code, and that way that would get you all of your different.
I won't likely be sorting by that. I won't likely be pulling a report by that.
Right.
So that's not my worry. My worry is, do I have to create this over and over and over and over again, or do I create it once and then, as we're building our drop downs in the form, use this same error code for 18 different places? Pull that same thing over.
It is one-to-one, because essentially on each of these different options, you're going to end up choosing what is the equipment type that I'm associating this with, and you can only choose one per entry in this issue list.
Oh, this is going to take a long time then. Okay.
Yeah. I would maybe before we create too many. This might be one I want to follow up on. I'm making note.
Okay.
I'll run it by.
Well, that's why I figured let me do the VSM instead of the exam table, because that's a good one to show you that that's going to have an error code. But and description is what they see when they hover.
Yep, description is what they see when they hover.
Nah, not a question. There we go. So now I'm going to have another one of those. We haven't done this equipment yet, but would be, hold on, let me grab one. Thermometer.
Something we can also do, and I have to verify that it'll work this way, is if you don't put in any specific hardware type, it should display regardless of what you choose. Now it'll either do that or it'll filter out. I'm hoping it'll do the first one, or if you for like error code,
That's what I'd like, error code, because I don't care what piece of equipment's giving it, because the next thing, what we're asking them is, what does the thing say on it? Type it here, and that's free form. That's not going to be linked to anything. Let's try that, because that'd be nice, so we don't have to create 8 million of the same thing. Same thing with other.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to do other on, VSM, other, exam table, other. Other is simply describe. I cannot type. Issue. Because at that point, I've given them the normal things that go wrong, and now, yeah, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, let me actually try to build that out really quick. I kind of already have a good. All right. Almost there. Okay, I was mistaken. When you choose a first
Okay.
option, it only filters to show whichever ones have that matching number. So in my specific case, I created one list that just had 1 and 2. In the second list, it had 1, 2, and 3. 1 was associated to 1, 2 was associated to 2, 3 wasn't associated to anything. And then in either case, I just got 1 or 2, not 3. So.
Right, but can you associate 3 to both 1 and 2?
I don't believe so. And that's something
So I gotta make one for each thing.
Yeah, I would
Okay,
hold
is
off
this
on
part
that.
of the rollout that you guys do for us? If I say, here, go build these, and you do all this typing?
No, it is
Potentially.
not.
Yeah. I mean, not a part of this
It
set
is
of
not
hours.
included in the current cost.
Yeah, not in the
Nope.
current set of hours.
Poor cat. You know I'm gonna make her sit here and do all this, right?
What I would say is hold off. Let me
Thanks, everyone.
try to find a better solution. Or if
Yeah,
the
because now
answer
that you
actually
can see my,
is manual.
as
but
you saw, yeah, as you saw from the second drop down, that whole top level, I said, okay, these conditions apply to everything in this section, because
yeah.
you know, on desks, you're going to get either repair, and then the prompt will be, tell me what needs to be repaired, or replace, and the prompt will be, tell me why, and you know, the next question is going to be, and did you get it approved? But that's for every instance of furniture.
Right.
So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, a minimum of 10 different fields could be created just for minimal office furniture. Forget the other, 40 odd pieces of equipment. It's a lot.
Yeah. Let me follow up on that one for you.
See, as I was watching you build the drop-down list, I saw you going in and just pulling fields over and saying, I want these fields, I want these, help me, entities to appear on the drop-down list. So why wouldn't you be able to put the same entity on more than one drop-down?
Because the entity I'm pulling from is a one selection, not a multi-select.
Okay. Okay. Well, you can research that part, but then we can. So now I know how to do. So now I just have to sit here and do all of this. So now, if we can learn how to make a sub drop down and with this curly brackets, then I'll have my examples here, and I can just rinse and repeat.
Yeah. I mean the answer. We could create like a hierarchical list, like how we have the resource types, where there's subsections of medical, subsections, subsections, etc. The issue you run into there is that you still have to kind of create all of those subsections, and you're not really. It's a little bit harder to enforce that everyone goes all the way down the tree to like the end of each branch,
Okay.
But it's certainly a way to do it. Like if you like look at our default like incident types, it's very much set up that way. There's an issue or there's a failure with printing, and it's network. And I think ultimately, like kind of how those are set up is you're not leaving that to the requester to fill out. You're kind of generating that based on how they describe the issue. You're having a technician kind of fill out what exactly the problem is.
Well, yeah, and a lot of these are like exam table, electrical handle, foot, other. The only place that they're going to have any input is on other. If they say exam table, electrical, that's it. They're done. That's all I need. I need to know we're having an electrical issue with the exam table.
Okay.
So the only place where there's user input is on furniture, because it's so nebulous you couldn't possibly have choices. And
Right.
when there is an error code, we need them to obviously type in the error code, because I don't want to make a drop-down list of every possible error code, because that would be insane. And same thing, on a vital signs monitor, if the issue they choose is not charging, that's it. They're done now.
Yeah.
They don't have to enter anything. Then so like you said, where they're incidents, I'm trying to get it so that they enter as little as possible, so that when I run reports and such, everything's called the same thing, everything looks the same. But we do still have those places with error codes and other where they do have to put in some free-form information. Now, I understand those
Yeah.
maybe the not charging and those guys that don't require more information could work with anything, and then we'd only have to create other human point, other glucose monitor, other those, which still would be a pain, but not as bad.
Or you could. this exact problem, while extremely common, is always interesting because I've been working on this product for almost 4.5 years at this point, and the way we handle this exact issue has changed over those 4.5 years. And I'm always still trying to figure out what the best way of handling this is.
Mhm.
So yeah, this will be
Well, that's another
something
one
I'll,
you can bring.
yeah,
We'll do
yeah,
a sub drop down list so I know how to do this stuff, but I won't build these out until you get back to me in case one of your colleagues says, "Oh, I did it this way and it works really well."
yeah. Um, yeah, so I'll at least show you kind of like how to set up that association between those two drop downs. So
Mhm.
if this ends up being the correct way, then we kind of have that already built. If you go into advanced, um, down to the very bottom again, and then open up our entity editor, we're gonna go ahead and service request management, and then lookup lists. And so we're gonna choose whatever the child entry is going to be. So yeah, issue type. Yeah, go ahead and click there.
Yeah, I
Like,
did. Come
okay.
on. No, there it goes.
So you'll see each of these lookup list options have their own model, their own form and fields and associations and
Mhm.
everything. So yeah, we're just going to create an association back to whatever we want our parent option to be, and then add that
Mhm.
to the form. So we'll do
So
model,
form model.
yeah, and then association, and we'll do add. Yeah. And so here you don't necessarily need the or anything like this because
Okay.
so you could just call this, equipment type.
Well, this is the child we're building, right? So this would be issue type.
Yes. So this is the association back to the parent, which is the equipment. Um,
Okay. So the field name is which one, the child or the parent?
the field name is going to be the parent.
Parent. Okay.
Yeah. And this is database format. So.
Of course it is. How's that?
Yep. And then under our data types, we'll choose the equip type. And save it.
Yay.
Yep. Yep. But now we can do forms under under equipment issue type
there it is.
right there. and then just customize this one.
Edit.
Yep, edit.
Cool.
And so now it should be sitting in your toolbox, and you can.
Can I put that up in name?
What's that? I usually
No.
put it either below description or next to it.
Or above it.
Yeah, or above it.
Because that's where I landed.
Yep. And so yeah, under the properties, you can change the caption. You can make it required if you need to. If you're happy
so
with
equipment
it,
type would be required, yeah.
So let's click on.
Caption is what they see, correct?
Yeah. I think I would probably leave name as name and then change the UDF equip type to equipment type. Because this
Choose
is
the what is what?
I would leave name as name for the caption, and then change the caption on our UDF.
Okay.
So if you scroll down to or if you click on UDF equipment type, instead of right now you've got it clicked on name, there you go. Now change the caption for that one. And then set is required equal to true.
Okay.
Yep. And
Visible at 4. Just looking. Okay. All right.
yep. At this point, you can go ahead and save it. And then we can exit out of the entity editor, and then go back into our.
Yes.
Yes. And now we can go into our equipment issue types. And if you click on, error code or other, or even create a third option, you can now see that you have to choose an equipment type.
Hey. Okay. Now you said we're gonna have to probably do these per thing, so.
Yeah.
And of course, this isn't gonna match any equipment types I already have in there, but still works.
Right. Okay, so now you can click OK. And final step, back into the entity editor. So that's advanced.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That one. That's the form.
Yeah,
That's the web.
we have to, yeah.
We have to go in here.
Mhm.
Sorry. Too many things open. We're not in the
And
cup list. We're in entity editor, which is, hello, where
that
are we?
is very advanced down at the bottom.
Oh, wait, down
Yeah.
there.
And so we're going to open
There
up
you are.
let's open up your equipment staff form.
Which should be
Under service request.
there. Hello. Come on, click. It doesn't want to. There we go. All right, we're going to my form.
Yep, go into forms, and then we'll choose our equipment staff form.
Equipment repair request staff.
Yep. Then go ahead and click customize or edit form. Either one works.
Okay.
They both do the same thing. So, and then
Okay.
we're going to click on equipment type.
In here or in the list?
Are
you on the form or in the? Okay.
And so under your properties, there's that property called dynamic filter. It's
Yes.
currently blank. If you click on it, see the button that popped up right there?
Oops, wait, sorry, went way over here. Getting it off the other screen. Whee! There you go.
All right, and so, yeah, we're going to keep on the filter screen, and then we're going to say when the equipment type changes, we want to filter, and then we're going to choose our UDF equipment issue type under choose a field. We're going to say issue type.
I'm sorry.
Type.
Sorry.
Not a problem. And
Okay.
then it'll autofill with the association available. So that's exactly right. You can go ahead and click OK and save. And then we should be able to view it on the web. Yep. So there, you're going to click the refresh
this
button.
or anything?
Yeah, you're going to hit
that
that refresh right there. Yep. And then once there we go. Yep. And so now you should be able to choose
Aha!
exam table, and now this should be filtered.
Nice.
And if you're going to choose VSM, you shouldn't see anything.
Yep.
And then if you were to clear out equip type, you should see all three of your choices.
Great. Okay. So if you don't choose anything, you get this huge long list, and then you're narrowing down this list by choosing this, which is how I thought it worked, except I didn't get the one-to-one relationship that that you have an exam table error code and a glucose monitor error code and a VSM error code.
Yeah, I'm
right.
certainly going to see if there's a better way of doing that.
Okay.
If there is, I don't know about it yet, but that should definitely get you started there. Anything else on the form that you have questions with, or?
Asset tag is another one that it's going to refer back to something else. And I take it that doesn't necessarily, that is referring to the database. So how do we do that? So is that something you have to program, or is that something?
That's
okay.
something that that's something that we can add in.
Okay, all right. So I don't have to worry about trying to build that relationship out.
No, that's already pre-built. There's a
Okay.
table in each module called like I think in service requests, it's service request impacted resource refs or something kind of wild like that. And
Okay.
we have a special control called impacted resource control that kind of is automatically that setup. It'll display as a multi-select dropdown control, and you'll search for your asset tag number, choose
and
it,
that's
and
available. That's that.
Yeah,
that's the one that we're putting on our forms, facilities forms, anybody who might need it form.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Then why don't my drop downs work like that?
What's that?
I said I wish the drop downs worked that same way.
Yeah, we kind of have to program them in that way. But impacted resource is a common enough one that we kind of have the tables and everything kind of pre-built. We just have to set them up.
Can we see that?
Yeah. I'm actually going to I'm going to share my screen and do it myself the first time.
So I have to unshare so I can see you, right?
Yeah. Even
okay.
I'm a little bit rusty on this one. So here
also, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sitting over here playing with the program. As I was going through the approval progress through a work order, there's multiple stages there, and I would like you to walk me through how to get through each stage also. As far as approval, submittal, promote, and all those keys, but actually on the form itself, so I can see where it goes, because there's a couple pop-ups, especially on close. There's a pop-up that comes up and it says down there you have to hit it's been finalized, or two other things. I was wondering if we could change that verbiage in that drop-down that's on that also. So.
Yeah, for sure. We can. Let's go ahead and go through.
But do what you're doing now. I'm just saying, just keep it, Okay.
Yeah, let's add a impacted resource control, and then we can kind of walk through the workflow that way.
If I don't take away from D.
No, that's fine, because I'd like to actually build out my form to the extent that I can, not taking up everybody's time, and then say, okay, now that I have these pieces, here's the pieces I need, because it's silly for you all to sit here and watch me build a form.
There they are.
Justin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your list came up like instantly. What happened with that?
That I am on the server directly.
Mm-hmm. I see how you are.
So. All right. So under our list of controls, we have the impacted resources control. I'm going to go ahead and drop this here. And all right. Something good to do. I'm actually just going to save it just like that. And it's not cheating if the consultant does it. So it's not cheating if you do it. It exists on the change management form already. So I always compare it to one of the ones that's already filled out. So I'm going to make a snip of that. So I pulled that just out of the RFC, and now I can come back and say, oh, one thing you need to do before you do this part, and we're just going to create a new regular text string, and I'm going to call this impacted asset tag, or I'll do impacted asset tag. In this case, because it's a multi-select, we do a text field instead of a drop-down, or instead of an association, so that we can create a semicolon delimited list of the assets. And actually, as I say that, I realize I need to create one more. When you do this, you're going to actually create two fields. You're going to create your regular field, and then you're going to create one with the same exact name with PIT at the end. So, just like that. And now here on our impacted resource control, we're going to name it, we're going to name it after the PIT. Oh. Under field name. So the list view will always be, or the lookup view in both places is going to always be resource chooser. There are some cases where you can create an initial view and make it something else, but kind of the default choice here will be resource chooser. And then the other thing you need to know is relation name. And I am going to so the field is always called impacted resource refs with the name of the module at the beginning. So incident request, problem report. Change is the only one. Change uses just impacted resource refs. But I guess in our case, we're going to use service request impacted resource refs as our relation name, and that should be all we need to do. Go ahead and save that. And there's a knowledge base article on it too, so I'll be sure to send the contents of that your way, because this is kind of certainly not 101 level change gear. So now that we have that, okay. So at this point, as soon as the web loads back up, we should see that list, and as soon as we get assets in there, we should be able to see what those assets are. Now, what we can do with every module has a list of views here. We can create like a resource chooser that's like pre-filtered to just equipment, and we can do that. So we can instead of resource chooser, we would be resource chooser MM, and that would be your specific drop down or your specific view filtered just to show those equipment assets, or kind of whatever you do. Like I've had one company that I've worked with before has their own separate resource chooser that's just build numbers. So they're doing release management, and they'll have inside of their CMDB they'll have all of their current builds. And so go ahead and pick your build number, and the impactor resource just shows what those are. Yep. Right now we don't have any assets. If we were to put some in, you would be able to see them in the list here. So this is kind of the format it would be. You would start typing in, HE-1234 or kind of whatever your format is, and then it would show you your exact matches. So the good news is it's done on your staff form. So I will, and it looks like it's in a good position where you just have to copy what I did to put it on the end user form. But it's here. Any questions on this?
So for everything we do on the one form, we have to recreate on the other form. There's not a way to just take it and drag and drop it over.
I mean, the quick way of doing it is to delete the end user and then saving the staff as a brand new end user form, which I've certainly done before. But yeah, otherwise you'll have to do it twice.
Okay.
Yeah. Because you could have wildly different layouts. Like I think the default like incident tickets are a really good example. The default end user form has basically nothing on it, where the where the staff form is like really filled out. So if you want it both places, you'll have to build it both places.
All right, so it would now be a good time to do a quick break and then reconvene at like 2:30.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let's take a quick break. At 2:30 we can. I
We'll
think there are
dive
some
in.
questions on. Yeah, dive into the workflow.
Oh, I was thinking the configuration piece.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's go ahead and do that then.
Okay, we'll reconvene in about
Yeah,
6
that
minutes.
sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Mhm. So the truth is, with once you know how to configure one change gear module, you kind of know how to configure all of them. Um, the really like the main thing to know is the differences between like there's always like little quirks between um, some of them like service request has a pretty major quirk, and that's the multiple form selection. Um, incident problem change are all more or less the same. Change has a approval where the other two don't. Um, CMDB is maybe the most different one, but the difference isn't really on the configuration end. It's on kind of some of the things you can do with it. Um, and so I'm wondering, and Brent, this will be a question for you, I think. Do we want to kind of just understand what all the CMDB can do better, like go into the auto scan, like the automated scan and the like resource map and things like that, or
We don't plan on using that auto scan feature, those pieces.
Okay.
I mean, we could, but right now we use PDQ, which is it has all that built in. So I'm mainly just
Okay.
looking to use the CMDB piece as an asset management like D is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you said we're licensed for 100. So I mean, perhaps I guess if we wanted to, we could maybe enter the servers in there. They're all virtual, but we can enter servers in there for some type of change management piece use instead. That might be something we might do, but they're not technically an asset because they're virtual.
Right. It would still be good, especially if you get into change management, to have all of that in there. Um, because then absolutely you can go and you can click on where's one of my fake servers. Um, this is all just I'm on my test environment. These are all the factory sample data. I can go here into my ticket history and see that this ticket has been through 5 changes in the past month, and it's generating all of these different incidents. It's et cetera, et cetera. Um, kind of help investigate it that way. Um, the other cool thing about CMDB to note is the relationship map. And again, this really comes into play with change, because you need to know who and what else you're impacting whenever you're bringing down a server or anything like that. And so you can create a map of all of your kind of how all of your assets are related to one another and related to your business processes. So, for example, if I were to bring down this Apollo, I'm bringing down these two meta frames, all these virtual servers, these couple SQL servers, but most importantly, while that's down, I don't have HR at all. It's gone. It's down. My HR people aren't going to be happy that I just brought down their system without telling them. So you can kind of utilize these mappings to specify, what servers are affecting kind of what areas of your business. Like if you're bringing down some sort of medical software, you need to notify people, or you would want to know that ahead of time. And so outside of the auto scan, that's really the big other piece is the relationship map. And those are actually pretty straightforward to build out. Unfortunately, there's not a good automated way of doing it yet. But in the relationships tab, you can say that you just choose the asset that it's connected to. And then you can kind of choose like what kind of relationship it has. So I'm going to say that corporate is a member of Janus, whatever that means. I don't know kind of how any of these are set up. But now I can then see when I select corporate, after I save it and select it, I kind of made this screwed up, but yeah, you can kind of see how everything connects. This is a bad example, just playing around with it, but everything flows up. So if you were to take down one of these systems down here at the bottom, it would affect everything uphill of it.
Yeah, we have something similar in SolarWinds where you can, when you add in assets or items you're monitoring, you have a whole map of, if I take this asset down, then it's going to kill everything below it. And it also disables all the alerts. If you disable the alerts for that, then it drops them all for the rest of everything else below it. So.
Right. So this isn't as we can't change here won't do alerts, at least at that level yet. But it is absolutely, we can see the.
Yeah, it's more about like an awareness situation. Like I can see awareness-wise, my change is going to affect X, Y, Z.
Yeah, exactly. Which for service requests, maybe not so necessary. For changes, absolutely. Absolutely, you want to know all of that info. And it's good to kind of have it in one place. But if you know that you have your mapping and everything like that already in SolarWinds, for example, then I don't think there's harm in that.
So as far as the asset listings here, like you got my views, team views, so it's very similar to the service request areas. Basically, they're all relatively the same as far as how they're laid out. So our reporting here, when we come in, we've got like, say 4,000 assets in there. They're just going to show up here until we start filtering. Is that what?
Right. So you can do different types of filtering. So there's different resource classes, and class is something that really only exists in the CMDB. Let me find that list. Resource class.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to understand earlier on the other list we were looking at, like resource types maybe is what we were looking at, and you had de-editing the list, but I'm wondering if that was unrelated to what you wanted on the form.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So with the resource type, the reason you would do it that way, is, I mean, I guess it depends at, for what angle are you looking at it? Like from the CMDB, you're looking directly at the asset itself, not necessarily what you can do with it. So I'm looking at a heart monitor and I'm saying, okay, this is an equipment medical heart monitor. That's what this is. I can go into my list of assets and see. I just want to take a look at all of my heart monitors and kind of check out the service history on those. And you can absolutely do it that way. Whereas if you're looking at it directly from the work order perspective, where the question is more what do I need to know about this in order to fulfill this request, then that's absolutely different information.
So our resource class stuff, then maybe this is where we need to define the difference between the two departmental needs. So like you have unclassified and managed, but maybe we have a one in here that just says materials management managed or something like that.
I would have to see if we can do that, because all of these mean pretty specific things. So what I was going to say is managed assets are any items that you are anticipating creating requests against, either change requests, incident service requests, etc. These are the specific configuration items that you are actively managing. So this will be the majority of your assets. We also have tracked assets, which you are not. Let me actually find. So there is a definition, and you should be able to find it in here. I want to make sure I get this right. Okay. This is actually exactly what I want. Here we go. Yeah. So you can find this in the help resource class. So managed resources have the most functionality available related to other managed resources used as an impacted resource. Tracked assets can be added as an impacted resource, but they can't be related to other items. So tracked assets are things you would use like furniture or medical equipment. So you might actually set up your equipment list as tracked assets instead of managed resources. You're not really.
Except you said they had to be a managed resource to put a ticket against it.
So I was wrong. Reading this definition here, tracked assets cannot be related to other. Oh, I'm sorry. No, okay. Hold on. Yeah, and I would say that unless there's resources that you are literally only tracking how many you have, in which case you would either list as tracked or list as unclassified, you're going to make everything managed, because this is what will give you like the most options as far as your classification goes. And then obviously once you retire a specific asset, you can change it to unmanaged, so that way it'll exist, but you can't do anything new against it. It's just sort of it's a retired, unmanaged node, more or less.
So this is what I was asking when on one of our first trainings, that the definition that was written in there was an IT specific definition, but really that definition of managed assets is going to be everything. And when we come in, we're going to see everything unless we pare down our view to not show us. So we're going to need a mechanism or a checkbox or something so that when Brent goes in, he can see his stuff. When I go in, I can see mine. And when Dave goes, so that we're not having to weed through stuff that
Right.
we don't want to see.
So the way we can do that is by owner. So on every asset in the usage tab, you have 4 different owners. You can be an owner of an asset specifically, or probably what you'll want to do is
I can make the
yourself
owner
up
be materials management.
set the team owner as materials management. And then if you're a
And
member
then
of
that
the
way,
materials
yeah.
management team, it'll show up under your team managed assets.
Yeah, and then that way, if you're a member of IT, you won't have to see all of the desks and all the other stuff that doesn't involve you. So then the only thing we have to change is in our definition of managed items. Right now, it says specifically IT, and it's really going to be everything.
Right. Now we can create additional views as well. Like I can say out of my all managed, like a great example of this is I can create a new view, and as soon as it gives me columns, okay, we're good there. I want to just see equipment. I know that all equipment is mine, so show me equipment, and then I can actually kind of filter ownership down even further. Actually, I wouldn't even need to do that. I could just, as part of the view, you go to have the ownership only be items that your team can see, instead of all viewable. But there are plenty and numerous ways to filter these lists down, right? And generally in environments where there is a large CMDB and lots of different groups utilizing the CMDB, there will always be these global lists, but there will also be maybe more specific lists. Like a power company that we work with has a view that just kind of shows their available unassigned IPs, so they can kind of go and look at it like that. See, all right, these are the IP addresses we have available. Obviously, not everyone needs that info, but they have a view. So type equals IP address, status equals available. Show me those. So there are multiple ways of doing this, I guess, is the point. I don't always like the way that you can do this through the web. Generally, what I would recommend whenever creating new views, other than personal views for just you, is creating them through the views section in the desktop. Same with reports. There's a reports tab. You just get a little bit more fine detail. Like you can do specific resource types versus needing to put in the full path. And so from here, you're also able to create views that don't actually show up on the thing. So if you, for example, those resource chooser, that resource chooser view that we're using in the impacted resource, you can absolutely create like a brand new one and have it exist like in this list, but it doesn't show up anywhere in the web. Like I can't go in here and, you know, pick resource chooser. Um, so I guess the question becomes, do we want to, is that how we want to separate everything out by just ownership groups, or do we want to have true separate views, or um, I guess a better understanding of how we want these segregated kind of might help with
Yeah, I'm thinking probably business owner. That seems to be like the best option because we may have sub team owners like security may own something, or more particularly like networking. I may assign a team owner as as network team on there because I want Sean to see it in his asset list when he's looking specifically.
okay, yeah. So let's go back to yours, and we'll just pick a piece of equipment. So we could absolutely do that as part of setting up an asset. If it's a piece of equipment, if it kind of falls under D as far as materials management and all of that, she could absolutely be like the business owner. And then and then absolutely we can have like a more specific, technical group that has kind of control over it, or technical person, right? That's kind of like why we have multiple owners, is because the person who's operating it on a day-to-day basis is certainly going to be different from the from the
Correct.
technical owner versus from the business.
Yeah, because if it's a laptop or a tablet, we're going to assign the owner as the person who's carrying it around.
Right.
This is an assigned to option there somewhere. Maybe I'm missing that. Maybe I'm forgetting that part.
No, that would be the normal owner.
Okay, yeah, all right. So we would do that piece. I'm not entirely sure there would be. I mean, I guess facilities could do this for like keys and stuff for key management. They can assign owners that way and then track who has what. But I'm just trying to think of other.
Yeah, what
I'm gonna-
key management?
I'm going to use it for our MiFi spots.
There you go. Yeah. So each team, I think, will have specifically what they're going to. So if they are assigning an asset to somebody, they can assign it that way. That's one of the things that we've been asked to look at as a corporation, is to, when somebody's leaving the company, what assets do they have and what do we need to reclaim? So this would be a good use of that when we're looking at things. But for IT purposes, for us, a laptop, tablet, yeah, we want to. If they're a home user, they may have multiple devices, so it'd be good to have that. And then business owner, I think, could fall underneath the teams, the overall teams. So materials management would be D's team. Maybe facilities would be all the facilities, that kind of stuff. And then that way they could see those assets quickly. And then, of course, the team owner piece, I think, would maybe allow us to filter it more.
So I think, so yeah. Okay. So important thing to know, owner, business owner, and tech owner are individuals only. Like that's just kind of the way these lists are set up. And I personally wouldn't set them up this way. I would allow you to pick a individual or a team. But these three, you're picking specific people, and then your team owner is the only option where you can select a specific team that has kind of
so
control over it.
the multi-select there, you can't do a team there
Yeah,
underneath
no.
business?
So like owner pulls up just people, and then if I select on the three dot to try to get some different options, it's still just showing me people. And I'm actually pretty certain that if I look up the field directly, I think it's associated I person instead of I principal, which is not what we want. So yeah, so you can see here's the business owner, and it's associated against I person. The one that allows you to choose like people or team is called I principal, and that's generally what you'll find across the product, just not here for whichever reason.
What was that field name?
What's that?
You said there was another field that allowed multiple select?
Oh, the I principal. Yeah. So if I were to create a brand new person, like an owner field, like an assisting type situation, when I build my association, I have a couple different options. I have I person. That's just going to get me individual people. Versus I principal, which is what I say the best practice is whenever you're dealing with people or groups of people. This will get you users, teams, roles, dynamic roles. They're all kind of in this I principal table. And then from there you can filter down and say I just want this to be teams, or I just want this to be individuals, versus kind of locking yourself into one or another. Like there's also an I team, which I wouldn't use. I'm just saying that in the circumstance of this tab, I think all three of these are using people only, the person only table. So we can still set a team that has ownership over it. So this would be materials management, IS, etc.
Yeah, I didn't create an overarching facilities team.
Yeah. And then you would generally, what I would say is you would make either like your business owner or your tech owner the specific person who kind of has purview over this kind of asset. So I don't know if you have a specific server person or servers in this specific zone, but you would make that guy the business owner or the technical owner. I think in a lot of these equipment cases, you would make business owner D or someone on her team. Because essentially what you want to do, what you can have these for, is you can say, all right, when a certain thing happens, I want to notify the business owner of this asset that XYZ is going to happen to it. Because like on your technical, like on your day-to-day like change level, that person may or may not be involved in the change process, but as soon as you notify the business owner, now you're you're always involving the correct person. Um,
We just add another field on there for additional filtering, I guess. So if I wanted to have certain assets to where they're filterable by certain teams, maybe I just do it that way instead. And yeah, we could do the team owner, but I'm just thinking most of the IT assets will be assigned to the entire team rather than just portions of it.
right.
And I can think about that later. I don't have to decide right now.
Yeah.
Filter on that. So, but these forms, all these individual tabs are fully editable, so we can just change our particular form however we want.
Exactly.
Okay, so Dee will be able to create her forms for her inventory management piece for her team, and then IT, same thing. We'll have our own type of editing piece, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like it sounds like it doesn't sound like there's huge overlap as far as working with each other's assets. Like it really sounds like D has her own set of assets that IS is never going to touch, and vice versa. And so that would be a really good case where you can actually absolutely have two different forms that can be completely different and don't really overlap.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think right now the only thing we ever overlap on is TVs. That's probably it. They ended up in there.
That's it.
They ended up in D's database somehow, and they've kind of just stayed there. So even though technically IT is the one now moving them around and managing them, the idea though
You
for
can
us,
have them back.
well, we could do that as part of the transition you're doing too. That I'm okay with that.
True.
I was just looking at the main goal here is to have everything in one database. That way, when finance needs a report of all the assets at one location, they can just get it easily. Or if they need to know, hey, the building burned down, I need to know how much money we had sitting there. What's our claim going to be? So we also have grants and stuff that we do that ask for that information. So that is also another use case for having all this in one place. Now, I did notice you had the type field there, and that's the piece I was talking about earlier, where it kind of mimics what Dee was doing with the drop downs on the request form itself.
Right.
Can you bring up that piece inside the configuration? That's actually where one of my questions was.
So on the configuration item or on the service request form?
On the configuration item itself. Okay. So I think that was actually in a different area. I don't really know exactly where.
Oh, okay, so
it's like the first thing we did pretty much today.
Here. Oh wait, no, that is.
Yeah, I think it was like resource types, maybe. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So what is that piece there? What is this defining?
So the idea is you need different information on documents than you need for servers, than you need for peripherals. And so because you have different needs for each of those different kind of types of assets, you can extend out the entity and have fields that are just for peripherals, and you can have a form that is just for peripherals. Or in this case, all of the equipment is going to have a different form than your basic CI. And that's kind of what we had built out, D&I. So the idea is all of the equipment is going to use the equipment form. And then you could even go further and say that you might have a different form even beneath that for medical devices. And so kind of this whole list is at the top level, so business service document, etc. That is controlling, when you create new, you're specifying this top level, what type do you want to create, right? At that point, the facility, it's going to utilize this top value and then only show you everything beneath it. Like you can see here. So you could end up like splitting your forms basically based on your default resource type. All of your facilities info is going to have, one form. It might have like address information and everything like that versus servers versus equipment.
So would I need to create a different form for each kind, or, I mean, I was just thinking like for PC, I'm gonna want to know RAM and all that good stuff, but for a monitor, that's irrelevant. So I may want to know what the monitor size is, but that won't be on a PC because that doesn't really translate.
Right. So you can kind of go one or two different ways. You can either create a single form that kind of has everything, or you can generate different forms for different items. Like for example, like the two things you had just mentioned, a monitor would probably fall under a peripheral, right? And so you can say what is generally the kind of information that I need to know for my peripherals. Refresh rate, etc. And you don't always need to fill out every field on every one. Like obviously, even in here, copiers and network interfaces might have completely different info that you need to gather. But in general, this info is more similar than between them and Windows 10 workstations.
So what is the point of resource types then? What is the main goal of those functions?
The main goal is to kind of organize your assets in a way that you can get the most specific information possible. And that part of that kind of ties into
The reason I asked is
these additional entities.
Because the form we were looking at, I was just looking at possibly having fields appear and disappear based on like the equipment selection. So that, I guess I'm trying to figure out why that would be relative. Like for instance, if I have a drop-down list of all the different types of devices, PC, printer, scanner, that kind of stuff. If I'm already doing that in a separate drop-down list, how is that relevant to this? Or should I not do that and just use this list instead?
Well, I mean, I guess I would utilize the resource type list. Now the thing is that these lists are different from module to module. Like in general, you can't At least I don't think you'll be able to just grab the resource type list out of CMDB and throw it on the in the service request module, for example. So I do think it makes sense. So you're kind of, the reason you do separate lists is because you're doing different things with them. In the CMDB's case, all you're really doing is classifying these assets as these different types of things, whereas in service request you're narrowing. I mean, they're similar, but there is a slight difference in that you're narrowing down the specific sub options kind of based on what it is. And so like and because we're utilizing 3 different forms with 3 different, very different like purviews, you can filter those forms down to be more specific to the kinds of requests you're expecting to receive. You don't need to see the full list of everything. Like for example, okay, this is actually a really good example. On or where are we here? Workstations. I think from a CMDB perspective, it does make sense to classify them by OS. You know, I want to see all of my Windows 10 machines. I want to see what is running on like Windows 2003 that we really need to upgrade, because you know, et cetera, versus, you know, you might get a request in and people are, it might be more relevant to ask, you know, laptop or desktop, or the asset tag is still going to be the same, but you're dealing with different info sets. And it just seems like in this case you are asking the same thing, but I still think it makes sense to have different lists.
I guess my main question there would be: is there a limitation applied if I use this versus using just a standard list?
The one limitation that I've seen some of the time is that I've had a little bit of a harder time getting some of those dynamic filtering options to work against the factory. So there's limitations between a factory, associating between a factory field and a custom one that I've seen. And I've seen, I guess that's really the main one. Like if you're trying to do dynamic shows and hides and filtering and all of that, you can't create any custom filters against factory fields, is maybe the first one. So I couldn't create an association and say, based on some custom condition that I'm generating, I want to filter the factory resource type list based on some other custom condition. So you do have a limitation there, whereas if you're dealing with 2 factory or 2 user-defined lookups, you can create brand new fields against them all the time. You can edit the forms, you can edit the, you can create brand new fields, brand new associations. You can do everything that I've kind of shown you so far. You don't really get all of that with the factory lists. So depending on what you want to do with them, it might make more sense to have a factory list than work off of the default. I think in the CMDB case, where all we're doing is classifying, it makes complete sense to use the factory one. But in service requests where there's additional things we might want to do, kind of having that separated out makes sense.
Okay. So can you go down just on the left side here, we're under configuration management. Can you go down each item there while we're real quick so that we can understand what each one's for?
Yeah. So hold on one second. So in addition to your assets, we also have some kind of like really rudimentary like contract and policy management kind of built in. So you can have, you know, specific contracts with specific vendors on certain assets, and you can kind of list them here. And there's not really a whole lot of editing you can do to these, but you know, you can specify like the type of contract, notes. You can actually with who you can actually attach the, you know, contract file directly to it, and then have that kind of fill out a list inside of the asset. So I can say, okay, this asset is under this service level agreement. You know, you might be having issues with it, and you're like, oh, hey, what exactly were our agreed upon SLAs again? And then you can go to the asset and go look. And so that's kind of what contract types, contracts, policies, policy types. You know, so you can put in your disaster recovery plans. Like you guys are right up the street in Orlando. I don't need to tell you if a hurricane rolls through, like Irma did, and you know you're without power for a week. You need to know kind of what your disaster recovery plans are for your IT or et cetera. Um, and so you can kind of have that sort of in change gear already. And just some other information like kind of how each item was procured. Classes we went over. Status. So status works different than the rest of the modules. It's just a drop down. You can go in here and choose that this item is being sunsetted. You might set up BPAs to do certain things against sunsetted assets, et cetera, et cetera.
So that would allow us to designate that particular piece of equipment or item as serviceable by a certain company 24/7. And we can attach a contact to it. So like facilities could attach a, you know, hey, this is the AC unit and this is the company that's in charge of that contract. And
Yep.
okay.
Perfect example. You know, SLA with SunView. You know, you're expecting a certain level of uptime, and with agreed upon, you know, we will coordinate with you regarding maintenance downtimes. Usually, almost all of those come from you. It's like, hey, we have an issue. We need to apply a patch. We'll coordinate with you with the downtime. And if something goes down, you can see, okay, I need to contact Geneva and complain that we're having serious like uptime issues or anything like that.
Okay. And then what is the last one there? Attachment category.
So you can apply attachments all over the place, and this is really just so you can kind of categorize what those attachments are.
Okay, so it's like a label per se.
Exactly. That's all this really is. It's kind of labeling and categorizing anything that you might attach to an asset, and you'll find those in every category or in every module. So here are your ones for service request.
is there a way to block certain attachments? Like we've had people try and attach like an exe or something to a ticket. Is the system going to auto block those things, or do we need to find that?
Not by default. I think yeah, by default the only like limitation is the size. I think you can't attach anything bigger than like 100 megabytes. But there's not any limitation on the type of thing you can attach.
Okay, well, we'll do a little testing then. Maybe we might have to open a ticket to see if we can restrict it. It doesn't happen that often. It's very infrequent that something weird happens like that, but we've had folks attach like a .eml file, and it's like, it's an email. It's not going to help us.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Definitely like depending on the company, you might want to be able to do that. Like I know that even as a services consultant, I'm sending people zip folders with exes and DLLs like all the time, and change gear is a really good way of kind of getting around limitations with email. Everyone has filters on email and everything like that. But if you attach to a change gear ticket, it's sitting in our repository. You just need to go grab it. But
okay, so what's that business automation policy? That's under 2 other places too.
So this is essentially a way to kind of automatically run like the workflow automations, but on a real life schedule versus based on position within a change gear ticket. So super good example is Incident has some great ones to kind of highlight it. So if an incident has been kind of sitting in pending close, you're waiting for the customer to reply and say that we fixed it for 3 days or more, just go ahead and close the ticket. I don't need, we don't need to keep these tickets sitting in pending forever. After a certain amount of time, let's just go ahead and close it. Or another good one is if a request is due in 24 hours and it's still in progress, notify someone or reassign it, or do some other things like that. So
well, that sounds kind of like what we were talking about before, where somebody hasn't responded to a ticket with the next time, notify somebody.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly that.
Okay. So the views section, that was just the way to create the view for the main page.
Mm-hmm.
And then the communication templates, what are those?
So communication templates is service request is a better example. These are your SLA escalations. These are kind of, if you have specific templates for commonly occurring situations where you would need to notify, you can kind of set up these communication templates here. Now these are different from what you set up in the workflow. You can kind of set up a template in here and it would be available. Like if you need to quickly, if you're sending the same message in multiple places, you can create a template here and then choose the template on the workflow step for each of those. And that's essentially that one. The one last thing to note is notification rules. In a perfect world, this is where you would go to edit all of your email templates as they go based on your actions in the workflow. Unfortunately, there are some known issues with this section and kind of how it interplays with the email out of the workflow section. So at present, the SunView recommendation is to, whenever you need to edit the contents of an email notification, do it directly out of the workflow and not out of notification rules. You might end up, otherwise you might end up with duplicates. And support will help you kind of fix it, but you can prevent that altogether by making your changes directly out of the workflow editor.
Hey, can I interject?
Yeah.
I'm kind of working on the facility thing right now, and I entered into the facility tech side of the facility request. I added an asset number. Okay, so when I went to the asset number, when I close this work order, I want it to email D's department as soon as this gets closed. How do I set that asset number to do that?
Yeah, so in our close email, the default one goes to the requester and help desk, which I wouldn't do.
But what it is, it's an asset number, and it's a drop down not a drop down, but a box I entered into my form. So once I enter my asset number, if it reads an asset number in there, when I close this work order, I would like that item to go to D to let her know what we did with this item. So how do I sign an email address to that?
But you also want that asset field to be the drop down asset field that we build. You don't want to hand type it in. You want to have, I mean, you can key it in, but it's going to pick it from that list. Otherwise, it won't tie back.
Well, the only way to D, that means that this drop down has to have every single asset in a company in it.
It will.
Holy crap! Are you trying to hunt that number down?
No, you type it in. If you go to a drop down list, the box at the top, you can start typing, and it'll pull it up. What I'm saying, if it's a free form text field, you won't get the interlink back to the database that you're looking for. Okay. Correct, Justice?
Right. So the one that
but
go ahead. So on your form, you just have to choose the right field, is all.
Yeah.
But that field's not made yet, right?
It's made, it's not populated.
Okay.
So this is the one that
it'll do is once I start typing 1 or 2, 3 numbers, it'll just kind of eliminate as it goes until I get to the right number.
Exactly. I can show you. I can show you with the with my test environment, or I'll use change. Change has it. So yeah, you'll choose from here. Right now, it's showing a big box that's got everything in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just pick a letter.
Okay, so D basically we'll build this later then.
Yeah.
I'll just leave a spot on my form.
Yeah, I typed in meta and it filtered down to all of these different meta frames.
Okay.
And you just pick the one you want and click the plus.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Katrina, you got your work cut out for you.
So to kind of answer
your
question.
I missed that.
All right, let's stay focused. We got limited time here. All right, so on this particular piece, the communication template here, you're just dropping in the asset ID in the template itself. It looks like the point here is to create the notification and then create the condition upon close, or that's
exactly
already created.
So yeah, you essentially, if you need to create another email, you create the new email automation, and then you can specify a different set of recipients for it. So I can say we don't have materials management in here, but you would choose that team.
Okay, then I'll go to their designated email address.
Yep, exactly. And it'll notify everyone in that group. You know, and then it is a matter of you have the section down here that'll give you all of your different fields. This one, it'll kind of get you close enough. I use the materials management one since this field does exactly what we want it to do. As far as picking an impacted resource, it'll update the service history on the asset, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can say, you know, asset tag, and then this number is ready for additional processing, XYZ, or whatever you need to say.
Okay. So it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be.
And you're probably going to want to have some sort of condition on it that says, if this field is blank, don't send this kind of scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't have it, but we'll say, you know, et cetera, non-blanks, then perform the action. So it has to be filled out before you send it.
Wait,
I was trying to do that, but it looks like it's a little bit later on down the road.
So, Dave, what was your earlier question? Can we come back to that, or was this it?
Which one?
The one we said we'd come back to?
Yeah, no, that was,
I'm talking about the workflow on it specifically.
Oh, the workflow I wanted to know is if we go into, onto the actual work order that the tech is seeing or that I would see, and then on top it says submitted, approved, pre-approved, promote, and then it says a couple other things, close. And then what I was asking is when you hit close, it hits a pop-up window. And that pop-up window is asking for more information. So can you go to the website and pull up a work order, Justin? And just click on anyone, it doesn't matter. And then if you see on top, it says new, approve, assigned, fulfillment, and closed. So go to an open one, or reopen it, that's fine. Okay, so now, let's say I get in here, this work order comes in, and let's say it's already passed the approval from the management, so the approval will be green, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
We'll submit it for approval. It should auto-approve since we haven't changed
So,
that.
okay, what is this screen here?
So this comment pop-up?
Yeah, what is that?
So in certain certain environments, you can kind of require that people, you know, comment and specify what they did prior to performing that action.
Yeah, but would we need that for an approval? You know what I mean? So that means the person who's working this work order has to go through approval, then assign, that fulfillment. I mean, who's going to be clicking on all these? So if you go to assign, let's say we assign it. Okay. And it should automatically assign per the site it's assigned to, correct?
So if it's not filled out at all, it'll assign to the person clicking accept. We can also specify earlier, you know, we'll probably do that on you hitting approve. You know, it's going to go to this location, assign it to this specific
Whoever the
person.
tech is at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you go to, okay, let's keep on going. I don't want to, I know we're getting close. Then you go to fulfillment. What is the definition of fulfillment?
Fulfillment is in progress. We're working on the request. We'll let you know as soon as we're finished with it. Because you don't know.
And then let's close it.
Yeah.
Don't hit fulfillment, just close it. Okay, and then wait for that pop-up to come up.
Yep.
Okay, so modified filled area. So we're forcing them to comment on all this stuff before they close it?
So you don't necessarily have to comment, but you do need to provide some kind of close type. So
okay.
We did it, we didn't, or we rejected it. Kind of
Okay,
are the three
can we
default
change
options.
the description in this close box?
Yeah, so change what our options are?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is, so this
But
section
if we
is
change
shared.
it here, does that change it for everybody?
Yeah, this part is shared. This is using the service request close types list.
Okay.
So, you know, change fulfill to complete.
Right.
You know, now
okay.
it's going to say complete for everyone.
Yeah, I know how to. I know how to do that. That's
yeah.
good. I like this one's an easy one. But so we could put whatever we want. We could put 6 or 7 or 8 of them in there, right?
Exactly. And in some modules, that's actually the case. It's like change. Change has some additional options. I actually really like having duplicate be an option here.
Yeah, because we get a lot of that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, you can specify specifically it was successful and there wasn't any problems, or it was successful but we ended up we're seeing some new behavior we weren't expecting, or we had to roll it back, etc.
Which list is this one that you're looking at?
This is for change management. So if you were to do the same exact thing but under change, you would see this list instead of this one.
Okay, so what's change management is different than the change management tag or the workflow.
Yeah, so change is probably going to have a more involved process, so you're going to want to capture more info here.
So I see under service request management, there's closed types, but where is the other section, like the in progress piece?
So all of those are both these blue boxes here in the workflow editor.
Oh, okay. So in the workflow editor, you can just change that name from fulfillment to in progress.
Exactly. And then the other thing you need to note are the status bars. So I could change fulfillment to and you can see that it changed it here and here.
There you go, Dave. We have slightly different terminology in the current system, so I think he's just trying to marry it up so there isn't any kind of confusion.
Yeah, just make it a little bit easier for the guys. Or more, and I hate to say it, simpler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So do that again. How did you change? Where do I go to? Do you hit it on the? You can't see my mouse. Do you first highlight it over on the left-hand side and then change it on the right?
Yeah. So I clicked on the state here, and then I just changed the name.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then
and in approval. Okay, cool.
So
the workflow will stay the same. It's just the name will change.
the one place where I would not change it at all, and this is actually maybe at least a start.
But if I change this, I change it for everybody though, right?
No, just for this specific workflow.
Facilities? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I would not touch or make any edits to pending approval at all. The one thing I would do is, like, right here, you can see it says approval.
Mm-hmm.
I would leave it as pending approval as the name, and you can actually, what's an example? Request a review. Request a review is a clunky name, and so in the status bar, which is where people are going to be looking, I'm just going to change it to review. And so it'll appear as request a review, like in the grid. You know, you go to look for ticket status, it'll say request a review, but when you open up the ticket and you see the workflow bar, it'll just say review. So that's kind of, you can kind of soft caption it by just using the workflow status bar name, while kind of keeping the original terminology. Now, pending approval has a lot of additional behavior that is.
Gotcha. A lot of people are attached to that. A lot
of different processes are kind of attached to this default pending approval box, and so I would leave it alone as much as you can.
Okay.
I do have a question.
I'll see how much I can screw it up.
I do have a question on the pending area, because currently we have a lot of different pending topics. Like, if someone will say, hey, I need to borrow a projector on the 23rd, and of course today's the 15th, so we would put, on hold scheduled to be specific for that. Or they need something done on a certain date, on hold scheduled. That I see the close type piece where we can have more close types. So what about more pending types? They may have the same workflow though as these other items in here.
So what I would do is, pending resolution refers to something specific, but I would 100% just create a new state called on hold. And so you might, there's a couple ways that you can kind of think about this. You just have one specific on hold state with an on hold type, and so that we can kind of do the thing that is done on close, where close has that special comment where you choose the close type, and you can specify an on hold type with it, or you can do separate on hold states for each of your different types. Like, how many different kinds of holds do you think you have?
2 right now. I mean, sometimes we'd have a waiting for user response versus an on hold, because we're basically waiting for the user to respond. I don't know if that would be considered another on hold version. It could be, I guess.
So you would create different ones, and you would have different actions out of them, kind of depending on what you intend to do with them. Like, for example, if you have a ticket that's on hold because the request isn't for another 2 weeks, what happens when you, like, the way that you leave that on hold is different from waiting for a customer to respond with more information, right? And so you might actually have two different states there, and so you can at least specify, all right, these are the tickets that we're just waiting for because they're not due yet, versus, we have these tickets here that actually require a customer response, and when the customer finally does respond, it's going to do XYZ things. So these are kind of conversations. So I would 100% separate your standard, like, on hold or deferred or whatever, from waiting for more info.
Okay, so if we have these other states, I notice, of course, the rest of the workflow, it kind of flows into the next section. Does that need to be linked in, or can that just be its own? Like, right now you kind of have it as an island in that workflow.
Like as far as the bar is concerned, you can have it absolutely just be in. I actually think and part of the reason why I set up my workflows this way is that you have, this is kind of like your main like artery that all of your tickets are going to finally go down, but you also have stops along the route that are optional, but you might end up getting to. So they're kind of off to the side in their own lane. And so like pending resolution, for example, pending resolution shows up in the workflow bar in the middle here, but you don't see it the rest of the time. You only see it once you're actually here. I've also seen it where on hold goes at the very beginning. So it would be like on hold and then the rest like that. So you would see the ticket, and instead of kind of being along the process like you normally expect, you'll just see it back at the beginning sitting in a step called on hold.
Okay, so the status bar there is just an indicator for the user to know where it is in the process.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
You mentioned with the user response, it can then generate actions or a workflow. How can we create that workflow? Just say we put a ticket on hold pending additional customer information, and when they respond with that information or with any information, it changes the status of the ticket.
Right. So I'm actually going to, I can actually, so I'm going to show you the incident flow again, because I think this demonstrates it really well. So right here, waiting for details. This is kind of exactly what you're talking about. You're requesting more info from the customer. It's going to sit here, and then when they reply to the email or they resubmit the ticket, it's going to do a bunch of things. So the one thing it's always going to do is it's going to change the status back to in progress or wherever you choose for it to go. And then as part of the resubmission, it's going to send an email to the assignee letting them know that the customer responded. And then kind of as your properties, one of the properties of like waiting for details or on hold or any of these other steps that you can kind of you can set up for yourself is whether or not you pause the SLA clock. So like by default, when the ticket is waiting for the customer response, your SLA clock isn't running because it's no longer in your hands, right? And so once you resubmit it, it's going to go back into in progress, and in progress, the clock is not paused. So as soon as it's back in progress, the SLA starts running again. You're being timed on resolution, etc. So I would absolutely utilize that for your holds. If you're waiting for a part to, you're waiting for a part to come in.
Yeah, would we do it for, waiting for, part to come in for a vendor or waiting for additional information from an individual user? And then we'd probably put some kind of custom response status saying, customer responded or vendor responded or something like that versus just going back to in progress.
Exactly. So the email is always going to be part of it. Like even this whole complete one that we created custom, whenever you create a brand new action, it has an email for it. It's up to you to kind of fill out the contents of that email on the custom ones, but they're available. So you'll always, at bare minimum, notify someone, It's up to you to define who and with what, and then you can also do additional actions such as changing value, changing other ticket values, reassigning, changing due dates. It's up to you exactly like what else you do, but at the bare minimum, when you fire an action, you are notifying someone.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. We're getting close to our end time here. Let's make sure we get that recording in the morning if we can. For tomorrow's agenda, I guess that's the next question I have. I think we'll push the Active Directory to tomorrow, since we didn't cover that today. That's kind of a floating topic anyways. So we'll cover that tomorrow. Perhaps some more workflow. Is there anything you think we should be covering this week as well?
I'm struggling to think of things we haven't quite covered yet. There's always like weird like niche cases that kind of shake themselves out once you start building. But we can. I mean, I think this was like a really kind of productive session today, and I think that if we kind of continue more of what we did today, kind of after we really take a look at the AD sync and some more of the workflow stuff, I think we'll be able to fill out our time pretty well.
Okay, so tomorrow, AD sync. I'll probably start with the morning with follow-up questions from the day.
Start with the follow-up.
Yeah, we'll start with follow-up questions, then we'll go into AD sync, and then we'll go back into workflow. I think that's pretty much going to be our dominant thing here going forward. Is probably going to be workflow, making sure everybody starts playing with the system and looking at the workflows. The workflow seems to be the biggest question maker. The forms, I think, we can probably cover under the follow-up piece. Okay, unless anybody else has some comments on this. I'll take that as a no.
Not from me.
Anybody? No comments.
Brent, one quick comment, and shouldn't really make a huge difference, but we have a brand new sales engineer who's going to be listening in tomorrow, just for kind of.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Exposure training.
Also tomorrow too, we'll probably want to define the next training sessions we were looking. I think we had 5 more that we needed to kind of drop in somewhere. I'm thinking we take a break for at least a week, for let people figure things out, that kind of stuff, and then come back to it. I don't know what your schedule is, so just please take a look when you get the chance.
Yep, absolutely. I don't have a problem with that.
And just so everybody knows, I'm still thinking about. I believe we have 5 more 4-hour windows. One of those will be dedicated to technician and informatics training. So we'll have basically 4. I think it's 4 more 4-hour blocks of time that we'll need to really dig down on topics. So with having everyone looking at what's here and playing with it, maybe we can get better questions out of that.
So I guess, Brent, question for you: What are you? Do you have an anticipated go live date, or what kind of schedule are we on as far as?
So we're looking for probably late February to go live.
Okay.
So plenty of time to play with the forms, make sure the flow is working the way we think it should. We can move that data up if we need to, but we need to have time to educate our users here in the company that are obviously outside of us, the general clinicians and stuff, providers, that other admin staff. So we have to be able to educate them on the new process, and when, and of course pick a go live date for them as part of that training, and say, hey, we're going to flip over on this date. I mean, my hope would be March 1st, but to fully turn things up and start with a first month day. But there's other things inside the business going on, so I can't. We'll have to have a discussion to just verify those dates work for us.
Okay. The one thing we should maybe consider is we can absolutely keep doing the 5 4-hour blocks. I'm almost wondering if splitting it into 2-hour blocks, especially as we get kind of further on, might make more sense, because generally the way things go is once you kind of have time to look at it, it's going to be a lot of kind of quick question, quick like Q&A, help me fix what I did type calls. And,
sure.
Those generally don't need to be 4 hours.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So for just something to consider, kind of as we approach approach.
Did we lose your video or audio again? Sorry, audio. I think we lost you, Justin. Okay, well, I think we lost Justin at the end, but we can get into that conversation in the morning. I'm sorry, tomorrow's session as part of the beginning there. Thanks everyone for attending today, and we'll just we'll wrap this up.
Yep, I'm sorry about that. The call just dropped.
Oh, that's no problem. It happens.
Yeah. So.
But we can dig deeper on the options, but the 2 hours session sounds good to me. I'll probably be more feasible for people's schedules as well if we break that down. The other question I had too had to deal with some of the importation. I don't think these are going to import our assets anymore, but IT is. So
right.
We need to have a discussion about that. If we need to carve out some of that learning time to do that piece, then I'll need to know ahead before we use that time. Or if that's a separate area and they need to do that, then we need to work that out as well.
I'll have to look at the SOW and see if we have available time. Kind of the way I'm approaching this is every hour is a usable hour for configuration and training.
Okay.
So if that is part of, so at least discussing it, I think kind of falls into that purview, but depending on kind of what we determine the scope would be, that might need to be additional. But we'll have to have that discussion, I think.
Okay. Well,
okay.
Just keep that in mind then, and we'll talk about it more tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Justin.
Yep.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.